Mac Quayle, you've been quite busy this past television season. Let me just read off some of the credits that you've had. The People versus O.J. Simpson, Mr. Robot, Scream Queens, and American Horror Story Hotel. Where do you find the time to write all this music?
That's a really good. I don't know exactly how to answer it. When I first got all these shows, I went from no shows to one show, American Horror Story Freak Show, and then three more. I was sort of wondering how I was going to do it, and somehow I managed to just pull it together. It's a little bit of
well, let's talk about some of these. I want to talk about People versus O.J. Simpson. Obviously, everybody has seen this trial before. Everybody has an expectation of what the show is going to look like. So talk about approaching the music for it. Where did you start?
We started in a place which was wrong, actually. We started in a place that, we were really trying to punch up the drama, trying to accent a lot of the emotion, really push the story. And, relatively quickly we learned that that's not what it needed. As you mentioned, everyone's seen it. The performances, the actors are so tremendous. They just didn't need a big score. It just needed a little bit of help here and there, pushing it, light and dark. Ultimately, I think what served the show the best was to be more subtle and to just let the story and the actors do their work.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's what is so great about it, is that you go in with an expectation of maybe something kind of trashy or tabloidy, because that's what we saw of it 20 years ago, but there's this great drama in it, and a lot of different layers and complexity to it. So talk about writing some of the themes for it, writing for some of the characters and stuff like that.
Well, I think throughout the story, ultimately it's sad. It's a sad story. Two people have died, and so many lives are affected by that. And so, the music was certainly in all the themes for everyone was on the darker side. It was definitely intentional to be more melancholy, to be more tense, and there was also some discussions early on with Ryan Murphy and his team that once we decided the music should be more subtle, that it would also be reflected in the themes. So there would be no like big grand themes, but more like simple motifs that would come in here and there for a lot of the courtroom scenes. There's these sort of arpeggiated guitar sounds, and some of the OJ scenes, there's a piano motif that comes in and out. But it's all very very simple, and certainly no big grand themes.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely very different from what you do in American Horror Story or even Scream Queens, different kind of feeling that you're trying to go for, right?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of a challenge in itself with having the 4 shows to write music for, was to have them all sound different. And I think we achieved that. Which certainly was the intention. It's just like, okay, here's this whole new story. Like, how can it be completely in its own world and not be borrowing from any of the other shows?
Mm-hmm. So, jumping off of that, you came on to American Horror Story in the last season, Freak Show, and now you did Hotel, which, of course, American Horror Story is always a different story each season. So talk about writing the music for that. What were some of your influences and ideas?
Well, for Hotel, the early discussions were that the sound should be very electronic, sort of a retro 80s, 90s horror electronic sound. So right there, that made it pretty easy to have it exist in a whole nother world from Freak Show, which had a different feel, not nearly as electronic. And so I started building a palette of synthesizer sounds, and I just started coming up with various feels and textures that seemed to do what Ryan was looking for. And he always loves in Horror Story. He does love a really strong theme, and pushed me to finally come up with what turned out to be the kind of the main theme of the season. This sort of creepy. I think it sounds like a violin that's been lifted off of an old record or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the first few episodes with those parameters, we came up with what I think ended up being pretty much the roadmap for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is it is kind of more of a grand score, but I mean, of course, with anything in the horror genre, there is this, I guess, call for sort of bigger. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think that's certainly the history with American Horror Story. The scores have been pretty big, and there's a lot of scary, shocking moments, and the music rides right along with it and pumps up the adrenaline and the fear. So it's a lot of fun to get to play in that world.
Mm-hmm. Now, going into Scream Queens, how did you write something unique for that? Kind of in the same genre as American Horror Story, but different and unique in its own way.
Well, the initial discussions on that show were similar in a way to Horror Story Hotel, because the idea was to do something all electronic, and once again looking back, more retro 80s and 90s. But it's a horror comedy series, so I knew that the music couldn't be too serious. It needed to always have some fun in it. And there were in some of the first episode, there's this horrible scene where they're getting mowed down with the lawnmower, and I was able to write something which to me it's like a cross between a horror soundtrack and a pop song, kind of mixed together. So it had the intensity to ratchet up what we're seeing on screen, but then it also had this fun element to it. So throughout the series, that kind of needed to be there. There needed to be this mixture of scary and fun, and actually some straight up comedy music as well, which is more difficult for me. Those were some of the more difficult moments to score, were the comedy scenes.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that was exactly?
I don't know. I've heard other composers say it too. It's something about comedy, which to find the right tone that helps make it funny, but doesn't become too cliche, and it's not too obvious. There's like a really fine line, whereas doing something that's scary, you can do a lot of different things and achieve an effect, and it's I don't know, it just seems a little easier, certainly for me.
What does Ryan Murphy give you as a producer and as a director that helps guide you in your decisions with these projects?
Well, he like I said, these initial discussions about what the tone of the season is going to be, and that's just so important, because that is what begins it begins the creation of a framework to work in this musical universe. And he's a very sort of big picture guy with music. He doesn't communicate with me with a lot of like specific details about things. He gives the general direction, and then maybe a couple of other things, and then he either likes it or he doesn't. So it's kind of a cool way to work. Scream Queens, there was this direction about being electronic, but then I got a note from him saying, "I'd really love to use harpsichord." And so all of a sudden now harpsichord became this thing that got used throughout the entire season, mixed with the electronic sounds, and it was just a great idea. And then throughout the season, he either, like I said, he loves it, or he's like, do something else. So that's how it goes.
Going back to People versus O.J. Simpson, this is kind of indicative of a lot of television these days, but especially with something like that, where you really are telling a complete story in, I forget, it was like 10 or 11 hours. But are you looking at it in terms of it being an entire arc over all of these episodes, or are you just going episode by episode? Does that make sense?
I mean, it does. It does. And I feel like, I would sound more sophisticated if I say, yes, it was a very well thought out, crafted arc that started from the first episode and wound its way all the way through to the end of the trial. But but that's not what happened on this one. Just for whatever reason, the workflow on this particular season was we were sort of jumping all over the place. I mean, it started musically on episodes 1 and 2, but then I didn't work on it for a little while, and then I was working on episodes like 5 and 6, and then I was working on 3. So it was just sort of jumping all over the place. And if there is a discernible arc in there, it just sort of came about by the collective effort of everyone involved, the editors and the producers and myself. But it wasn't anything pre-planned by the composer.
Well, it does sound seamless, so congratulations.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I should have made up an answer, but I was too honest on that one.
No. We love honesty here. I think the other great thing about that show was that there were so many themes in it. Not musical themes, excuse me, but different. It's about race and class and sex and the media and the criminal justice system. I mean, is it fun to have all these different things to pull from and write music for?
It was. Yeah, it was really inspiring. And when I first learned of the project, it didn't occur to me that it was going to have all that. I was just thinking in terms of, they're going to dramatize the trial, but yeah, I mean, it like you said, it had so much in it and so relevant, all of it, like right now, and so it was inspiring to have all these things to guide the music.
So let's talk about Mr. Robot. How did you get involved with that?
Well, yeah, I have to comment. I mean, you're editing it out that we got cut off, but as soon as you started to ask me about Mr. Robot, it cut off. I think it's clearly a sign that F Society is trying to hack, probably hacking this video stream right now. So we gotta be careful now. They're on to it.
Let's tread lightly, yeah.
So, Adam Penn was an editor for Ryan Murphy on all of the shows that we already talked about. And just after American Horror Story Freak Show finished, he called me and he said, you probably don't know this, I'm also a writer. and I'm going to be working on this new show called Mr. Robot. And I have recommended you to the creator, Mr. Sam Esmail. And I said, that sounds great. I went in for a meeting. I saw the pilot, talked to Sam. We hit it off. And next thing you know, I had the job.
So talk about writing the music for that. Where did the ideas come from?
The initial conversations with Sam. The music is so important to him. It's like a really important element. And he also thought that this story needed an electronic backdrop, something like very electronic. And so yeah, we just started throwing ideas around and came up with the starting point for this like pulsing, dark, tense, anxious music that goes throughout the season.
It is really quite unnerving to listen to. I mean, it creates this atmosphere of tension and unrest and like this feeling of something bad is happening. I was watching the first episode. I started rewatching the first episode. I hadn't watched it since it came on, and I forgot just how strong the music in it is in creating this mood of tension.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's it's an attempt to get inside Elliot's head, where there's obviously so much going on, and he's paranoid. He thinks people are following him. There's like stuff that's going on that he doesn't understand. This mysterious Mr. Robot all of a sudden is showing up in different places and knows things about him, and so the music was really just there to help, help the audience like feel it, rather than just understand what was happening, but to really feel that paranoia, that anxiety that's going on with Elliot.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing the second season, right, which is coming up in July. I think it's going to premiere in July. So this is kind of a new thing for you, I guess, going from a first season to a second season where it's not like American Horror Story and a completely different, thing altogether. You're like, so was that kind of difficult finding new things to compose for, or, is that
well, I'm just getting started.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm not very far into it, but yeah, Sam and I have talked, and it is it's going to be picking up where the last season left off musically, but also pushing it into some new places, which we haven't discovered yet. I'm sure in the upcoming month or so we'll find some of those places where the music is going to go, but I imagine it's going to sound familiar, but then it's going to push into some new areas.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it. Lastly, I wanted to ask you, so you received your first Emmy nomination last year for American Horror Story Freak Show. You've previously been nominated for a Grammy. What does that kind of recognition mean for you?
Well, I mean, it's flattering. It's definitely flattering, and certainly in both cases was just really beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, to be included in a list of people that I respect so much and admire their talent is just not something I really anticipated for myself. So I'm very humbled by it, and just grateful that I'm able to spend my days making music, which is something that I love, and there's some people out there that are appreciating it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on all your work this year, and it's great talking to you again.
Well, thanks. Good to talk to you again as well.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.